Alrighty, my friend. It's 7 o'clock. Good morning. Rise and shine. Time to start a new day. I just came back from the gym. I sweated a lot. Now I'm going to read some books, doing some mental workout. I'll continue from here. Wage-based society. Sociologist Andrew Gorz spent the latter half of the 20th century writing about the role of work in society. He argued that many countries had evolved into places where the primary way one gained membership in society was through formal work. He called these places wage-based societies, where the central ethic was never mind what work you do, what counts is having a job. A powerful example of this kind of ethic can be seen when people refer to a parent who decides to become a full-time caretaker of their children as someone that decides to stay at home. This way of thinking leads to an oversimplification of how societies operate, assumptions on how people should live their lives, and ignorance of the realities and downsides of the regular way of working. Many people are surprised to find out that in the United States, one of the strongest wage-based societies in the world, only about 40% of adult Americans, or 106 million people, have jobs when they work more than 35 hours per week. Seeing the job as a central element of a good life and employment rates as a metric of a successful society was not a common assumption until after World War II. In 1946, the United States formalized this by passing the Full Employment Act to promote maximum employment. This created a clear metric that everyone could use to judge a government's performance, and today, political leaders do whatever possible to protect or create jobs. One striking example is from 2009 when US President Barack Obama explicitly mentioned jobs as the reason why he did not want to pursue a more ambitious healthcare policy. Everybody who supports single-payer healthcare says, look at all this money we would be saving from insurance and paperwork. That represents 1 million, 2 million, 3 million jobs of people who are working at Blue Cross Blue Shield or Kaiser or other places. What are we doing with them? Where are we employing them? Regardless of whether single-payer healthcare would have improved lives or not, this decision shows that, at least in the United States, government leaders prefer to create or save jobs rather than doing anything that risks losing them. For Obama, it was also a smart decision, as the healthcare sector was one of the few areas that saw continued job growth after the 2008 recession. And the good jobs numbers were a key reason Obama was able to win re-election. For most people, having a job is better than not having a job. And the cost of unemployment are well documented in academic studies. Researchers at the University of Stirling found that people who are unemployed can become less friendly, less hardworking, and less open to new experiences. Another study showed that although unemployed men have much more free time, they volunteer less often than similarly employed men. Based on this analysis, it could conclude that jobs are good. Full stop. Unfortunately, this way of thinking is challenged by the dramatic shifts in the ways people are working. In 2016, economist Lawrence Katz and Alan Krager highlighted a group of 30 million people categorized by the US government as alternative or non-traditional workers and showed that they were responsible for nearly all of US job growth from 2005 to 2015, adding nearly 10 million jobs. McKinsey and Company found similar trends across Europe and estimated that more than 100 million people across the United States and Europe are now non-traditional employees. McKinsey compared these workers to traditional employees and found that they were as satisfied or more satisfied across 15 different work characteristics such as income, independence, hours, flexibility, creativity, and even recognition. Though this group is quite large, it doesn't have a cohesive voice, and people are often surprised to find that most of these alternative workers are quite happy. In addition to ignoring to this new way of working, we also ignore the enormous amount of wasted energy and effort that is a part of many jobs. In his book Bullshit Jobs, David Graeber detailed stories of people working in jobs where they were personally convinced that nothing they did was of value. However, if you find yourself in such a job, it is rarely worthwhile to point this out to other people. My first experience with this was an intern at a large corporation after my first year of college. A few weeks in, the vice president told me he had a special project for me. He wanted me to spend the next couple of weeks going through boxes of documents. Rumor had it that one of the boxes contained a record of the repair work the company performed on one of Amelia Earhart's planes. At first, it felt cool to be working on this project for one of the leaders of the organization, but the excitement quickly faded as my fingers dried out several days into my search through the boxes. When I tried to talk about the incredible amount of time I was wasting on this project, people quickly redirected my inquiry, saying, "It may suck, but you are getting something to put on your resume." Or "Everyone has to work, what are you supposed to do?" Or "You should be grateful for being paid." No one wanted to grapple with this fundamental question. Why the hell are so many grown adults spending their time on obviously pointless tasks? During my second internship at the same company in a different department, I shared a cubicle with a man in his 50s who spent 5 to 6 hours a day surfing the web and printing out articles about celebrities. One of the other interns brought a pillow and took daily naps in an abandoned cubicle in another area of the building. I had studied advanced math and physical thinking. I would apply those skills, but instead I spent my summers doing simple math on Excel spreadsheets. The notion of spending the rest of my life doing mindless busy work horrified me and motivated me to keep searching for better options. It's also what drove me to try to break into strategy consulting where I wouldn't have to spend so much time proving I was willing to do things I didn't believe in. Yet at McKinsey, proving your commitment to work came in a different flavor. The work was much more interesting, but it seemed that people were in an endless search to do more. In my first week on the job, my manager told me that I was expected to work 40 to 50 hours a week, and I took her at her word. Yet most of my colleagues worked 50 to 60 hours a week or more. My colleagues always laughed when I left the office at 5:30. "Paul can get away with it. He's just different," they would say. I thought I was simply more efficient and worried a little less. The reality was that I never bought into the wage-based mentality and could never fully commit to placing work at the center of my life. Eventually, something would have to break. Amazing. I started to like this book a lot more. I feel like the author shared lots of personal anecdotes which are very valuable and helpful to see from an outsider, from someone who leads a very different life from him. So we can really learn a lot about how those people feel about their work, and then you would have different perspective about your own work and your own life. You can make better choices. Even you didn't have to experience that yourself. You can just learn it from the authors sharing true experience. I mean, they're probably not 100% true, but you get the gist. You definitely learned a lot from their stories. Okay, I'm going to take a shower. Thanks for reading with me.